Hi everyone, welcome back. Alright, well today I'm going to try to recreate the Santa Fe. Originally it was a one-of-a-kind, and for some reason I just haven't marked it as a one-of-a-kind in my shop. So I'm going to see if I can recreate it today. It looks blue in the video because the camera will not adjust for the color, so the photo that you see in the beginning is what the actual color of the yarn looks like. So I have this new teal from Dharma that I haven't used yet, and I don't know how close it's going to be. I was hoping it would be pretty close to what the original skein looked like. So the idea is to make a gradient with the teal, and then in the light parts to put some of that cayenne red sprinkled on top. So we will see how that goes. Got my gloves ready, got my ratty clothes ready, got my mask ready. Let's do this. Looking back on this video now and thinking about it, I really should have put more water in the pot or used less dye or added more skeins of yarn, because this was way too much dye for 2 skeins of yarn. So that's going to be an adjustment for the future if I decide to continue this colorway, which I probably will. I decided after I mixed in this teal that I was going to add a little bit of the bright aqua, just to see if I can get some of that Santa Fe color from the original skein. You can see here that it's pretty dark, not what I was expecting, but I had never used this color before. And just keep in mind too that the color is not adjusted on this video because I don't know how to do that. I am not technologically advanced in that area, so it's coming off bluer than it really is. So I'm going to go and get some of that aqua and add it to the pot. And then I'm going to get started dipping the yarn. Now, there are multiple ways to do a gradient skein. This is my preferred way, and I'm sure I'll change it as the years go by because it is a little hard on the arms, but I have a microwave above the stove, and so really I just kind of rest my hand on that as I'm holding the skeins up, and that gives a little bit of reprieve. So this process, because of how much dye was in the pot, took a long time. I'm giving the thumbs down because it was way too dark. But what are you going to do, especially if it's a color you haven't used before, you know. But, you know, adjustments for the future. So I'm just playing around with the skeins of yarn, gradually adding a little bit more of the undyed, a little bit at a time. At some point, I do actually grab my kid, or yell for my kid to go upstairs and get a, what was it? I think it was a single ply merino, just to help soak up some of this dye because it was not going to happen with just these 2 skeins of yarn. And here I am unceremoniously just throwing in that mini skein and pushing it in, hoping for it to soak up as much as that dye as possible. And this was a process. This took way longer than it should have, but again, that was because I had too much dye in the pot, and I knew better, and I just wasn't thinking. I think by this point in the pot, it had been maybe 12 to 15 minutes, and that's about how much dye got soaked up. So I did play around with the heat a little bit, and I'm showing you that color. It's still pretty saturated, and I'm pushing in that mini skein, hoping for the best. And it does eventually work out in the end, so hey, yay, that's great, right? at this point we're getting close to 20 minutes or so in the pot, and I'm at the point where most of the skein is in the pot and that color is starting to get picked up. You can see that it's a little bit lighter now, so just swishing around the skeins just to help it soak up some more of that color. So I spend the next minute or so just playing around, swishing yarn, and it does end up picking up a lot of that color, especially when you go up and down like that, like I just did. That really helps to get some more of that color into the yarn. And then as soon as it's to the point where I think it's enough, then I just put the whole skein in, because that white part will pick up just a little bit of color, and it's enough for me to sprinkle it with the cayenne red to get that effect that I'm looking for. I'm pretty happy at this point that the colors did get soaked up into the yarn, because that did make me nervous, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm happy enough with the heat setting going on, because this is such a saturated yarn at this point that I'm afraid of bleeding. So I'm just double checking to make sure that the water is definitely clear. I have some citric acid in that little glass jar, and I'm gonna put a little bit of the cayenne red in there. And I'm going to show that, and that's going to get sprinkled over the white part. And then what I do when I have a little bit of that left over that I don't use on the yarn, I add water to it, and then I save that for when I'm going to have enough dye stock to just kind of do a bunch of one-of-a-kinds like I did in the last video. And here I'm just showing the glass container with the dye in it and the citric, and I'm putting it away for later. Always have a designated container for putting your dye. Don't use it for anything else after you've put dye in it. Glass is very porous, so you definitely don't want to use it for food. When I'm done dyeing the yarn, I just stick it in the sink like that, let it cool off, and then I'll put a little Eucalyptus in it, but you can use whatever you want. Dish soap works, wool wash works, whatever. And then just rinse it till clear. Hopefully it's clear your first rinse, and then there you go. This one, I didn't have any bleeding at all. I was so excited about that, because for real, that saturation made me nervous. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, I will show you the end results, and that color will be color corrected at the end of the video, because like I said, as far as the video is concerned, I can't seem to color correct the yarn, so it's coming off blue, but really it's definitely a greener tone. And I pointed out that lighter part because that was actually the part that was closest to the one-of-a-kind I was trying to recreate. So we'll see which one I like better at the end, or maybe you guys can tell me which one you like better, if it's the lighter one or the darker Santa Fe. And I might be able to recreate the lighter one, seeing where I went wrong with this video. I'm also showing off that mini that picked up all that dye. It got super saturated and still had a little bit of white parts left, but even twisted, that dye really got into that mini. It was interesting. So I'd like to know your thoughts. Which version of Santa Fe do you prefer? The light version or the dark version, or do you like both? Let me know below what you think. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.